Ever feel like you've devoured every classic the 60s had to offer, only to discover cinematic treasures that slipped right under your radar? Think again. Today we're unearthing 15 most underrated movies of the 1960s you must watch. Films that dared to challenge conventions, mesmerize with unconventional storytelling, and ultimately shape the language of modern cinema. Ready to take this mind-bending ride into hidden Golden Age gems? Let's dive in. L'Avventura. Imagine setting sail on a Mediterranean island hop, only to watch your companion vanish into thin air. That's the haunting premise of Michelangelo Antonioni's L'Avventura, where boredom, ennui, and obsession eclipse any typical mystery. Antonioni, fresh off his neorealist roots, assembled an austere dream team: Monica Vitti, whose icy glare masks volcanic emotion; Gabriele Ferzetti, the drifter whose conflicted heart sets the film aflame; and cinematographer Giuseppe Rotuno, whose shore-to-sea compositions feel like living paintings. Behind the scenes, Antonioni courted scandal at the 1960 Cannes Film Festival. Audiences booed its deliberate pacing, a stark departure from classical storytelling. Rumor has it, Vitti's trademark line, "Did you notice how lifeless that sea is?" was almost cut after studio execs balked at its ambiguity. Working on a shoestring budget of roughly $350,000, the crew lugged 35mm equipment up rocky cliffs, battling wind-whipped waves to capture those razor-sharp close-ups. But initial hostility gave way to ardent admiration. Critics labeled L'Avventura achingly beautiful and a revolution in cinematic grammar. It inspired John Cassavetes to embrace improvisation and fueled the French New Wave's appetite for existential ponderings. Today, its story of disappearance and mundane obsession still resonates, proof that the most profound mysteries don't always demand neat resolutions. Still loving this so far? Stay tuned. Our next gem dives even deeper into a psychological labyrinth. The Innocents, 1961. Step into a crumbling English manor where dents in childhood innocence crack wide open. The Innocents, Jack Clayton's adaptation of Henry James's The Turn of the Screw, stars a luminous Deborah Kerr as governess Miss Giddens, whose tender care of two orphans gives way to chilling supernatural suspicion. Kerr's restrained elegance locks horns with the children's unsettling gravity, while cinematographer Freddie Francis cloaks each corridor in shadows so thick you feel their cold breath. Filmed on a modest budget, under $200,000, the production turned a dilapidated estate into a character unto itself. Clayton insisted on natural light for authenticity, forcing long, grueling takes at dusk. The children's performances were coaxed from improvisation sessions. Legend has it, they sometimes startled even Kerr with their eerie, off-script whispers. Composer Jeffrey Wright's sparse, discordant score, punctuated only by piano plinks, became a template for horror silence. Upon release, The Innocents was both lauded and lambasted. Some called it a psychological masterpiece. Others decried it as overly ambiguous. Box office returns were modest, barely recouping production costs. Yet, as the years rolled on, horror auteurs like Guillermo del Toro cited it as a blueprint for haunting elegance. Modern audiences now praise its subversion of jump scares, showing fear can be created with suggestion rather than spectacle. Ready for more? Our next stop abandons the haunted halls for Baroque, mind-twisting surrealism, where time dissolves and reality warps beyond recognition. Last year, at Marienbad, 1961. Are you prepared for a cinematic puzzle that abandons linear storytelling? Last year at Marienbad, directed by Alain Resnais and scripted by Alain Robbe-Grillet, ensnares you in an opulent chateau where three figures reenact memories that may never have happened. Delphine Seyrig glides through mirrored halls with statuesque poise, while Giorgio Albertazzi pursues her with romantic insistence. Yet, was there ever a romance at all? Shot for about $300,000, Resnais employed unconventional blocking and lengthy tracking shots, most famously an 8-minute crane pan through a grand ballroom. Rob Grillet's elliptical dialogue, lines like, "Because without memory, what are we?" flirts with abstraction, daring viewers to decide what's real. The crew built numerous mirrored sets, some upside down, to disorient the cast and audience alike. Actress Serig recalled performing entire scenes, blind to which direction was up. Audiences staggered at its premiere. Many walked out. Critics were polarized. Some hailed it as the pinnacle of avant-garde artistry. Others called it pretentious posturing. Despite mixed reviews, it claimed the Grand Prix at the 1961 Cannes Festival, planting seeds for new Hollywood directors like Terrence Malick and David Lynch. Decades later, Last Year at Marienbad remains a touchstone for filmmakers exploring memory, desire, and the slippery nature of time, hungry for more hidden wonders. Next, we cross into Kafkaesque terrain, where bureaucracy becomes an existential prison. The Trial, 1962. Imagine waking up accused of a crime you don't remember committing and facing an impenetrable legal labyrinth. That's the journey Franz Kafka envisioned in The Trial, masterfully brought to screen by Orson Welles in his final completed project. Anthony Perkins, still riding the shockwaves of Psycho, slips into Joseph K's skin, nervy, polite, and powerless. Welles himself appears in multiple cameo roles, judges, clerks, doctors, imposing his Baroque touch on every dimly lit courtroom. Filmed in shadowy black and white, Welles repurposed existing European locations. Prague's Gothic courtyards became Kafka's nightmarish setting, while Venetian alleyways echoed Joseph's alienation. Costumes teeter between 1930s, austerity, and stylized fantasy, an homage to both Kafka's era and Welles's own theatrical flair. Original budget estimates hovered near $1 million, but Welles stretched resources with ingenious matte paintings and borrowed set pieces. Critics in 1962 were puzzled. Box office returns were negligible. Many criticized its pacing, runs over 2 hours, calling it indulgent. Yet, for a decade, it sustained a cult following among intellectual circles. Jean-Luc Godard and Woody Allen praised its fidelity to Kafka's disquieting vision. Today, The Trial stands as a testament to Welles's unbowed artistry, a noir-suffused nightmare that still reverberates in films about unchecked power and bureaucratic absurdity. Craving another cinematic revelation? Buckle up. Our next film will trap you in a sumptuous but absurd dinner party that you'll never forget. The Exterminating Angel, 1962. Ever wondered what happens when polite society reaches its breaking point? The Exterminating Angel, Luis Buñuel's surreal indictment of bourgeois hypocrisy, invites you to a lavish dinner that becomes an inescapable prison. Sylvia Pinol commands attention as Lucia, whose opening toast, meant to unite, ironically locks 70 guests in a mansion they can't leave. Each room, each corridor, becomes a waking dream of delirium. Buñuel assembled a stellar ensemble: Spanish icons José Luis López Vázquez and Miguel Ángel Ferrer, alongside French stage legend Jacques Morel. Cinematographer Alex Phillips bathed the halls in decadent candlelight, then twisted them into nightmarish tableaux as desperation mounts. Despite a wrapped budget under $400,000, Buñuel insisted on shooting on actual mansion sets in Mexico City, enough to give actors whiplash when doors wouldn't budge between takes. Upon its 1962 premiere, audiences reacted with bewilderment. Was it comedy, horror, social commentary? Box office earnings were modest, and reviews ranged from Buñuel at his subversive best to utter nonsense. Yet, over time, its satirical edge found loyal advocates among European art house circles. It influenced Terry Gilliam's dark comedies and lent inspiration to modern filmmakers tackling class divisions with absurdism. Are you still with us? Good. Next, we voyage into grim streets of post-war New York, where survival hinges on humanity's frailest thread. The Pawnbroker, 1964. When you build success from the relics of war's devastation, how do you carry the ghosts? The Pawnbroker, directed by Sidney Lumet and starring Rod Steiger in an Oscar-nominated turn, explores this in Harlem's sun-bleached streets. Steiger's Sol Nazerman, a Holocaust survivor turned pawnshop owner, navigates bartered trinkets and emotional currency with equal scrutiny. His hushed demeanor cracks only when memories surge. Landscapes of ash, the echo of boots. Lumet shot on location in a Harlem teetering between renewal and despair, a radical choice when studio sets beckoned. The production, budgeted at about $900,000, risks censorship due to its frank Holocaust flashbacks. Lumet convinced the MPAA by cutting just 6 graphic seconds, preserving the film's moral force. Composer Quincy Jones wove jazz motifs into the score, each horn note evoking both hope and lament. Critics lauded Steiger's performance, but mainstream audiences recoiled at its unflinching trauma. Box office receipts barely covered costs. Yet, The Pawnbroker shattered taboos, prompting Hollywood to confront genocide on screen, the first American film to do so directly. Its legacy endures in dramas that blend personal trauma with urban hardship, proving Lumet's conviction that cinema can reckon with humanity's darkest chapters. Feeling inspired? Next up, a labyrinthine tale of love, war, and memory that transports us to Napoleonic Spain, the Saragossa Manuscript, 1965. Ready for a film within a dream? Wojciech Haas's. The Saragossa Manuscript adapts Jan Potocki's intricate novel into a Baroque masterpiece of nested storytelling. Lieutenant Alphonse von Werden, portrayed by Zbigniew Cybulski, embarks on a 1,000-mile journey encountering gypsies, brigands, and spectral visions, each encounter birthing new tales that swirl back into the frame. Shot on location in Spain and Poland for a modest $600,000, Haas and cinematographer Majko Makarewicz crafted chiaroscuro landscapes reminiscent of Bosch paintings. Costumes fused Moorish turbans with Napoleonic uniforms, while actress Ewa Krzyzewska's performance as multiple characters wove through Van Worden's fever dream. Editor Alfred Janik stitched over 200 story fragments into a 3-hour tapestry, no small feat in an era of linear epics. Despite acclaim at the Venice Film Festival, the Saragossa Manuscript languished in obscurity for decades. Limited distribution and changing tastes consigned it to rare art house screenings. Bootleg VHS tapes became a cult phenomenon in the 70s, passed hand to hand among cinephiles. Filmmakers like Terry Gilliam and Guillermo del Toro later cited its labyrinthine structure as an enduring influence. Intrigued? We're halfway through. Next, we board a German ship, heading for chaos, masked by polite smiles. Ship of Fools, 1965. Picture a luxury ocean liner in 1933. Beauty conceals fractures of class, faith, and human frailty. Ship of Fools, directed by Stanley Kramer, assembles a constellation of stars. Vivian Leigh in her final screen role, Lee Marvin as a drifting cynic, and Oscar Werner charming in the bow. Their intertwined stories, religious zealots, secret romances, whispered betrayals, play out against the darkening horizon of impending war. Kramer insisted on meticulous period detail, authentic Art Deco decor, meticulously researched costumes, and a ship set assembled on a soundstage with rolling hydraulic motion. With a budget of $3 million, production nearly doubled cast rehearsals to foster genuine ensemble chemistry. Cinematographer Leon Shamroy contrasted sunlit decks with claustrophobic cabins, visually echoing the film's tension between freedom and entrapment. Critics praised its ensemble bravura and moral urgency, yet audiences in 1965 found its tone uneven, oscillating between melodrama and satire. The film underperformed domestically, though it won 2 Academy Awards for art direction and costume design. Over time, modern viewers have rediscovered its prescient commentary on complacency and collective responsibility as fascism rose in Europe. Eager for more, our next stop swaps ship decks for neon-lit Parisian nocturnes, where solitude becomes an art form. Le Samourai, 1967. Think you know the hitman genre? Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Samourai redefined it with zen-like precision. Alain Delon embodies Jeff Costello, a contracted killer whose icy composure and austere trench coat elevate him to mythic status. Delon's minimal dialogue is offset by his sculpted presence. Every glance, every cigarette drag a study in cool detachment. Melville shot Paris streets in stark black and white for under $500,000, capturing rain-slicked avenues and empty nightclubs as Costello moves like a shadow. Editor Marcel Morvan paced scenes with clockwork efficiency. The 3-minute album shop sequence unfolds without a single cut, heightening suspense to knife-edge tension. Music by François de Roubaix, a single looping guitar riff, became inseparable from the character's solitude. Le Samourai debuted to respectful nods but modest ticket sales. Critics admired Melville's stylistic rigor, though some called it glacial. Yet its influence on filmmakers from John Woo to Michael Mann is undeniable. The lone wolf assassin blueprint, the fusion of Asian honor codes with Western noir, the choreography of violence as ritual. Today it's hailed as one of the most elegantly cool crime films ever made. Ready for your next revelation? We move from existential assassins to a child's world seen through an uncompromising lens. Mouchette, 1967. François Truffaut ventured into dark territory with Mouchette, a stark adaptation of Georges Bernanos's novel. 11-year-old Mouchette, portrayed by Nadine Nortier, inhabits a rural French village suffocating under poverty and neglect. Her brief moments of tenderness, unexpected kindness, a small pleasure, are crushed by fate in a world indifferent to childhood despair. Shot on location in southwestern France with a lean $250,000 budget, Truffaut and cinematographer Raoul Coutard employed natural light to accentuate barren fields and weathered skin. Coutard's handheld camera roamed close behind Nortier, creating an intimacy that borders on voyeurism. Composer Georges Delerue contributed a simple piano theme, one note repeating like a haunting heartbeat. Upon release, audiences were unsettled. Its unrelenting bleakness contrasted sharply with Truffaut's earlier romantic tales. Box office returns were minimal. Critics were divided. Some lauded its brutal honesty. Others decried it as relentlessly grim. Over time, Mouchette found champions among feminist and realist scholars who praised Truffaut's refusal to sentimentalize suffering. Its legacy endures in filmmakers tackling childhood resilience against societal disregard. Curious about swimming next? Our next film dives into the uncanny blue depths of suburban malaise. The Swimmer, 1968. How far can you swim through memories before you drown? The Swimmer, directed by Frank Perry from John Cheever's short story, follows Burt Lancaster as Ned Merrill, who embarks on a surreal journey home via neighbors' backyard pools. Each plunge evokes nostalgia, regret, and the bitter realization that time and mortgage bills wait for no man. Perry filmed across affluent Connecticut suburbs, converting opulent homes into pool experience portraits. Budgeted at roughly $1.2 million, production suspended traditional schedules. Lancaster insisted on shooting each pool visit in actual daylight to capture glistening water mid-afternoon. Cinematographer Walter LaSalle played with reflections, letting ripples fracture Ned's face like a broken mirror. When The Swimmer premiered, critics were stunned. Was it a fable? A tragedy? Box office receipts trickled in, nearly burying the film beneath lukewarm reviews. Yet, those seeking allegory found riches, commentary on the American dream's hollowness, the illusions we erect to keep regret at bay. Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch reportedly screened it religiously for its subversive take on suburban veneer. Ready to slip into another underappreciated realm? Buckle up for swinging San Francisco nights and fractured love. Petulia, 1968. San Francisco never looked so fractured or so cinematic as in Richard Lester's Petulia. Julie Christie dazzles as Petulia Danner, a housewife spiraling through a city of jazz clubs and psychedelic squalor. George C. Scott plays Dr. Archie Bolin, a psychiatrist entangled in her emotional eddies. Their chemistry crackles against Lester's kaleidoscopic montage style. Shot guerrilla style for under $1 million, Lester integrated documentary footage of 1960s counterculture, blues bars, street protests, into Petulia's fragmented narrative. Editor Don Zimmerman leaped between 24 frames per second and hyperlapse sequences, echoing the characters' fractured psyches. Christie's wardrobe, miniskirts one moment, rumpled bathrobe the next, became emblematic of a generation torn between conformity and rebellion. Critics at the time were bewildered. Box office barely broke even. Some condemned its disjointed narrative, others praised its vitality. Over the decades, Petulia found new admirers among film students and experimental directors. It stands today as a rare mainstream film unafraid to let its audience feel lost, just like its characters. Can't get enough of these hidden masterpieces? Next, we witness how a once risque stage play became a searing portrait of identity. The Killing of Sister George, 1968. Behind the prime facade of a British soap star lies a maelstrom of desire, power, and downfall. The Killing of Sister George, directed by Robert Aldrich and adapted from Frank Marcus's play, stars Beryl Reid as June George Buckridge, whose brassy charm masks a vulnerable heart. When her off-screen romance with fellow actress Alice, Susanna York, unravels, George's life spirals into intoxicating self-destruction. Aldrich filmed on London sound stages and real pub locales for about $1.5 million, pushing boundaries with its frank lesbian narrative, one of the first mainstream films to do so. Cinematographer Joseph Byrock lit intimate scenes with saturated reds and shadows, amplifying the story's emotional heat. Composer Frank DeVol scored jarringly upbeat tunes that undercut the escalating tension. Upon release, censors in Britain and the US demanded cuts. Audiences were scandalized. Box office returns lagged behind expectations. Yet, feminist film scholars and LGBTQ+ advocates later reclaimed it as a groundbreaking portrayal of same-sex relationships. Raw, imperfect, and unapologetic. Its legacy ripples through every queer narrative that refuses to end neatly. Hungry for one more? Hang tight. We cap off our countdown with a feast of slapstick genius gone gratefully overlooked. The Party, 1968. What happens when a bumbling actor crashes the soiree of Hollywood's elite? Blake Edwards' The Party casts Peter Sellers as Hrundi 5 Bakshi, an accident-prone Indian actor who receives a last-minute invitation to a swanky Beverly Hills dinner party and proceeds to unleash glorious anarchy. From spilled hors d'oeuvres to mistaken identities, Sellers' physical comedy reigns supreme in this achingly funny farce. Shot in upscale Laurel Canyon estates on a budget of just over $1 million, Edwards choreographed each gag like a ballet of chaos. Cinematographer Gene Polito used wide-angle lenses to trap Bakshi in sprawling rooms, emphasizing his outsider status. Music by Henry Mancini, bubbling flutes and jazzy rhythms, underscored the film's playful irreverence. Critics in 1968 dismissed it as frivolous, and Sellers himself admitted it was his personal favorite among his less appreciated roles. Audiences, expecting more conventional Sellers' antics, were taken aback. Despite lukewarm box office, The Party gained traction on late-night TV, its slapstick sequences becoming comedic folklore. Today it's a must-see for anyone who believes laughter can break every barrier, social, cultural, or otherwise. One final gem awaits, a mourning ritual that redefines what it means to let go. The Dead, 1968. Closing our journey is John Huston's elegiac The Dead, adapted from James Joyce's story and starring Anita Ekstrom and Donald McCann at a Dublin Christmas gathering in 1904. On the surface, it's a genteel party, waltzes played by a live band, polite toasts flowing, but beneath lies yearning, memory, and the specter of lost love. Huston shot on location in Ireland for about $1.2 million, insisting once the wind blew too strong, the camera rolled anyway to capture authentic chills. Cinematographer Oswald Morris drenched the finale in soft amber light as McCann's Gabriel Conroy watches his wife's poignant confession. Her heart still belongs to a long-dead suitor. James Joyce's text flows almost verbatim, yet Huston's patient framing lets actors breathe life into every syllable. Critics lauded its fidelity and emotional depth, but its deliberate pace and literary pedigree confined it to art house screens. The box office was modest at best. Yet today, The Dead enjoys renewed reverence. The final 10-minute sequence in particular is often cited as one of cinema's most hauntingly beautiful endings. It reminds us that even in stillness, film can stir the deepest currents of memory and longing. There you have it, 15 razor-sharp, mind-bending, achingly beautiful movies from the 1960s that defiantly escaped mainstream acclaim but helped redefine cinema's possibilities. Which hidden gem will you watch first? Drop your pick in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you uncovered a new favorite.